My beloved child, you've been wondering why it felt like everything was pressing in from every side, why no matter how much you prayed, it only seemed to get heavier. But child, listen to me. This pressure wasn't meant to destroy you. It was crafted to prepare you for where I'm taking you next. This is urgent, because you must stop mislabeling the process. What you called punishment was actually my hand shaping you in secret. Every delay, every silence, every rejection, it wasn't neglect. It was construction. I was building something unshakable in you while the world thought you were being forgotten. While others ran ahead, I kept you back to pour strength into your foundation. I wasn't ignoring you. I was investing in you. Do not make the mistake of walking away right now thinking you failed. You're standing on holy ground, and it's not because you earned it, but because you endured the pressure without letting go. You didn't realize it, but every closed door was adding another layer of armor. Every storm was training your discernment. Every unanswered prayer was fertilizing a deeper faith that's now about to explode into fulfillment. That's why I need you to open your eyes today. This is not a coincidence. The timing of this message is your signal. I am declaring this over your life with urgency. The pressure has served its purpose. You didn't fold. You didn't faint. You held on to me when nothing made sense, and I call that victory. They may have thought you were being punished, but I was watching how you handled the weight when no one applauded. That kind of faith moves heaven. That kind of resilience cannot go unnoticed. So now, as I shift you forward, don't carry the trauma of the test into the triumph I'm releasing. What broke you was part of what built you. What infused you was part of what qualified you. You were not being left behind. You were being fortified. And that's why today's shift is urgent. You are no longer under examination. You are stepping into execution of the promises, of the plans, of the answers that were withheld not to torment you but to mature you. The preparation was intense because the calling is weighty. You weren't just being tested, you were being prepared for public authority, and I had to make sure your heart was pure when no one clapped for your process. You made it through what was supposed to break you. Now what's inside you is ready to be revealed. Let me say this clearly. The pressure ends today because the purpose has been fulfilled, and now you will begin to understand why it had to happen like this. There has been a final decision issued in the unseen realm, and while others may still be guessing, I want you to hear it clearly in your spirit right now. The season of examination is no longer in effect. The weight that once clung to you like chains in the night has been cut off at the root, not by your striving but by my authority. You must understand this with urgency, because many miss their moment by still living like they're being tested, when I've already shifted the verdict. Right now, there are angels being dispatched on your behalf, not to observe but to release. This is not rehearsal anymore. It's the real beginning. The reason you're feeling that unrest in your spirit is because I'm pulling you out of survival mode and ushering you into a fresh assignment. No more proving. No more defending yourself to those who never saw your heart. No more bending under pressure that was only meant to last for a time. The atmosphere has shifted, and I am calling you to walk like someone who had been validated by heaven itself. The label of being processed had been removed. I've inscribed a new status over you, released for purpose. What you didn't know was that the test was never about just you. It was about your influence, your legacy, your reach. I had to refine you so you would not misrepresent me when the doors open wide. And now, they are beginning to open faster than you can count, because the resistance has expired. I am saying this urgently. Do not delay. Step into this with your whole being. Walk like one who hath been selected, because the confirmation has already been announced in places you have not yet entered. There is no more time to entertain the mindset of lack, the echoes of former rejection, or the paralysis of hesitation. What used to make you question your worth no longer holds weight, because my voice has overruled every whisper of doubt. This is the hour where you must believe what I believe about you, even if no one else catches on yet. I am not looking for consensus. I have already chosen. And you, my child, have crossed the threshold of testing and entered the realm of trusted. Not everyone will understand how fast things begin to shift for you now, but do not slow down to explain. I have authorized a divine acceleration to replace the long nights of wondering. There is no need to apologize for what I've spoken over your life. They weren't there in the secret hour when you stayed faithful while bleeding internally. But I saw it. I counted every tear as testimony. I watched how you refused to curse me when it would have been easier to walk away. You passed the test in silence. Now I will reward you in ways that are loud enough to silence your accusers. This is urgent. Adjust your posture. Prepare your spirit. Make room in your schedule. This is not coming later. This is being activated now. You may feel unqualified because the pain clouded your confidence. But I don't use the qualified. I empower the available. And you, in your weakness, made yourself fully available. So the verdict is in. The test is complete. And what comes next is not retaliation, but restoration with acceleration, because I always finish what I started in you. They didn't know, and they never had to, but I always knew. Every time you buried the scream inside your chest because you didn't want anyone to see how close you were to breaking, I was watching. While the world celebrated surface strength, I was listening to the sound of your silent battles. That kind of courage, the kind that keeps going without applause or comfort, has a sound in heaven that never fades. And right now, that sound is echoing before my throne louder than the noise of all your enemies combined. Your tears, the ones that hit your pillow when no one was around, were not wasted. They were gathered, stored, and now they are testifying on your behalf. I must say this urgently. The silence you walked through was not invisible in the kingdom. It was a declaration of trust. It was a heavenly signal that even when nothing made sense, you still believed I was present. And because of that hidden faith, there is a reward that cannot be postponed any longer. You didn't retaliate when it would have been justified. You didn't expose what you endured behind closed doors. You protected people who left scars. And while others thought your silence meant weakness, I was writing a record of endurance that now has reached its fullness. This is why heaven is roaring on your behalf. Not because of what you said, but because of what you held back. You could have fought for yourself, but instead you gave me the space to defend you. And now, I am stepping in, not quietly, not subtly, but with the full force of divine justice. I've waited for the right moment to respond to what you lived through quietly. That moment has arrived. What was hidden will now be honored. What was endured in the shadows will now become the reason I raise you in the open. This must be said without delay. Your silence carried more faith than many people's noise. And I count that kind of trust as priceless. When others ran to be seen, you stood still just to be near me. That posture moves my heart like nothing else. I am not just acknowledging what you went through. I am taking action based on it. Doors will open that weren't even in your vision yet. People will bless you who never even knew your pain. That's the level of reversal I am initiating right now. But listen closely. You must stop disqualifying yourself because you didn't shout or fight. I'm the one who fights for you. You don't need to prove your strength to anyone when I've already established your value by what I allowed you to survive. That season of silent endurance is now becoming your season of loud recompense. The shift has started. I don't need a committee to approve it. I've already signed it with my authority. So step into this time knowing that your quiet survival was a spiritual shout in the unseen. I am answering that cry. I am responding to what no one else recognized. And I am doing it with urgency, because the time for hidden suffering is over. Your voice may have trembled, but your faith stood firm, and I honor that today in full. You didn't see me, but I was closer than your breath. Every trembling second when it felt like your soul was collapsing under the pressure, I was there, not watching from a distance, but holding you up when you didn't even realize it was my strength keeping your legs from giving out. You need to understand this right now. I did not abandon you when the night was too heavy, and the silence felt like abandonment. I was standing inside the fire with you, absorbing the weight that would have crushed you if I hadn't stepped in. There were moments when you questioned if I had turned my face away, when your spirit was too exhausted to pray, and all you could do was breathe through the pain. But child, I was there. I was counting every breath as worship. I was interpreting your groans as sacred songs. This is urgent. Stop believing the lie that says your weakness meant I left you. On the contrary, it was your weakness that attracted my nearness. You think you were standing alone, but the reason you didn't collapse was because my hand was beneath you the whole time. Every hour you endured without clarity, I was speaking silently into your heart, giving you just enough strength to stand one more moment. I was your unseen shelter when the storm grew louder than your courage. When your emotions told you to walk away, I was anchoring your feet. When your mind couldn't process the chaos, I was calming your spirit with my presence. Even when you questioned my goodness, I stayed. Even when you doubted my voice, I whispered again. Because I never loved you for your performance, I've always loved you for your persistence. That's what mattered to me. Not how eloquent you prayed, not how strong you looked, but how you kept breathing when it felt like everything was suffocating you. That faith, the one that quietly refused to let go, has triggered movement in heaven. Listen to me with urgency now. I am not blessing the version of you that had it all figured out. I am rewarding the part of you that kept standing even when nothing was left in your hands. That invisible strength is more powerful than any sermon, more valuable than any title, more pleasing than any ritual. I watched you stand up again when you had every reason to stay down. I saw how you walked forward with a shattered heart, pretending to be fine just to keep others from breaking. And I will not let that be forgotten. There were no cameras, no applause, no recognition. But there was me, and I never looked away. That is why, right now, the shift is happening. Because you didn't just survive. You resisted the urge to quit when everything told you it wasn't worth it. That level of obedience is what brings you into a new chapter. You're not arriving here by accident. You've been carried here by grace that never left your side. So hear this clearly. The breakthrough you've been asking for is connected to the fact that you didn't let the pain decide your path. I am restoring what you lost in those moments of silent war. You didn't collapse, and that matters more than you know. So now, let me carry you into what I've been preparing all along. I never expected you to walk flawlessly. I only desired that you'd walk forward even when the path didn't make sense. Your success in this season wasn't measured by your ability to do everything right, but by your willingness to keep believing when nothing around you looked like a promise. This is urgent. Don't let anyone convince you that you failed because you struggled. You didn't pass the test because you had all the answers. You passed because when you had none, you still chose to lean on me. In the moments where you could have escaped, you stayed. When fear roared in your mind and whispered doubts in the dark, you didn't run away. You leaned harder. That kind of cuss speaks louder than perfection ever could. You were never disqualified by your emotions, your questions, or your weariness. You were being watched for something deeper. Your response when everything was uncertain. And you, my child, trusted. When others demanded signs, you chose to believe my silence still carried purpose. When the doors stayed shut longer than expected, you didn't turn back to what was familiar. You stayed available. Do you realize how rare that is? Most people abandon hope when they don't see instant movement. But you held on. Even while tears fell, even while your heart broke from the waiting, you clung to the belief that I was still in control. That trust, fragile but real, is what moved the timeline forward. I cannot ignore that kind of surrender. That's why things are shifting now. Not because you earned it with perfection, but because you believed in me more than your circumstances. You didn't worship me because everything felt good. You worshiped me when it did. That faith pierced the noise and reached me. You didn't always get it right, but you always kept me in the center. That's what I've been looking for. I'm not using those who pretend to be unbreakable. I'm lifting those who remained yielded even when they felt unqualified. That's why your story is about to accelerate. because I am building on the foundation of trust, not the illusion of flawlessness. Your imperfections didn't scare me. They gave me room to step in. You made room for me, even in your struggle. And that's what brought you through. I need you to receive this urgently. The testing is over, not because you mastered every moment, but because you surrendered even in your uncertainty. I saw how you questioned yourself but still kept your heart soft. I saw how you wrestled in the night but still whispered my name. That matters more than you realize. That kind of trust turns the key. That kind of faith opens the unseen. I am not calling you forward because of spotless performance. I'm calling you because your trust proved you were ready for more. You didn't get bitter. You didn't shut down. You kept choosing to believe. You were honest with me, and I count that as victory. That's why this moment is so crucial. You're stepping into a new season not as someone who has to keep striving, but as someone who has already been marked by trust. And where there is trust, there is access. Where there is faith, there is favor. So don't shrink back now. You have passed. You have been proven. And I am now lifting you with my own hand into what you were always meant to carry. What once felt like you were trapped in time, waiting for something that never seemed to arrive, is now being transformed into a moment of sudden motion. You are not stuck. Hear me clearly. What you called delay was actually a measured holding. It wasn't denial. It wasn't abandonment. It was divine orchestration. I wasn't ignoring your prayers. I was arranging a release so specific that every part of your life would be touched by it at once. The stillness had a strategy. The quiet had a blueprint. This is urgent. What seemed like divine inactivity was actually the sound of heaven constructing a breakthrough that required silence before it could be announced. You didn't see anything shifting, but the foundations were trembling beneath what blocked you. You did feel movement, but I was rearranging timelines, rerouting outcomes, and removing barriers you didn't even know existed. Now, everything is moving, not in fragments but in fullness. This is no longer the holding pattern. This is the appointed time. The spiritual traffic has been cleared. The resistance has been overruled. And the waiting room you've been stuck in is now transforming into a launch pad. I am not moving slowly anymore, because you are ready to carry what couldn't be released until this exact moment. Do not expect things to unfold the way they did before. This will be faster, sharper, more complete. I am not restoring you with small tokens. I am releasing what was withheld for such a time as this. The enemy tried to use the waiting to convince you that you were forgotten. But I'm using the release to prove you were being watched the entire time. This is not compensation for time lost. This is multiplication because of faith shown. You stayed when nothing was changing. You stayed when they told you it was over. And now, I'm rewarding the obedience that refused to be talked out of destiny. You didn't pace back and forth in your spirit trying to make it happen. You trusted me to do it. That trust has activated something irreversible. What I'm doing now will not be partial. It will not be conditional. It will not be delayed again. I am moving things in your favor without the approval of those who doubted your calling. The release is not waiting on their permission. It's moving by my authority. I want you to prepare yourself with urgency, not to beg again, but to receive. The doors that were sealed are now swinging wide open. The areas where you were misunderstood are now becoming the very platforms where I will highlight you. The delay has served its purpose, and now acceleration is taking over. You won't have to chase what's already been released. You'll only have to make room for what's arriving faster than expected. It may feel unfamiliar, but this is what you're praying for, not in words but in tears, not in shouts but in quiet surrender. I saw all of it, and now I am answering. I didn't forget. I didn't miscalculate. I preserved it for now because you're finally ready to carry it without it crushing you. The maturity you built during the pause is what qualifies you to manage the release. To walk boldly, speak confidently, move quickly. The delay has ended. The gates are open, and your name is being spoken in places that were once closed off. The release has already begun. Now step into it with expectation, because this is your moment to move with me. You were placed in situations where the pressure was unbearable, not by accident, but because I was allowing what was meant for your destruction to be repurposed into something that would bring glory. They spoke against you. They underestimated your worth. They looked at your weakness and assumed it was your end. But they never saw what I was doing beneath the surface. While their words cut deep, I was forging something unshakable in your soul. While they plotted your fall, I was preparing your rise. You must understand this urgently. What they did to break you has only made you more dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Their attempts to tear you apart didn't destroy you. They exposed areas I wanted to strengthen. The fire they lit around you did not consume you because I stepped inside it with you. And every time you felt yourself melting under the heat, I was transforming what was fragile into what could not be fractured. You didn't realize it then, but every betrayal sharpened your discernment. Every disappointment expanded your endurance. Every false accusation pushed you deeper into my presence, and in that place, I refined your identity until the opinions of others lost their hold. This is important. I didn't remove the fire because I knew it would finish what comfort never could. Growth doesn't come from ease, it comes from pressure. But this pressure wasn't to punish, it was to purify. I was burning away the residue of fear, doubt, and dependence on validation. The moments when you were stripped of applause were the very moments I was covering you in favor you couldn't see yet. Now, you are not the same person they tried to shatter. You're stronger, wiser, purer, and ready. Ready not just to stand, but to carry what others would mishandle. I refined your motives, reshaped your vision, and reinforced your resilience. They thought they were ending you, but I was only just beginning. This is not a comeback. This is the unveiling of what had been forged in secret. The weight of what's coming now will not overwhelm you because you've already stood through what should have buried you. I've seen your tears. But more than that, I've seen your transformation. I know how you kept showing love even when it hurt. I know how you forgave when it made no sense. I know how you walked away quietly when you could have fought back publicly. All of that has become fuel for what I'm about to ignite in your life. Don't waste time proving anything to those who didn't believe in you. They were never meant to define you. I've already marked you. And now, the evidence of that refinement will speak for itself. The words they used to label you will fall flat in the light of my vindication. What once looked like ruin will now become the foundation of your testimony. You didn't fold. You didn't curse me. You endured. And now I will show you what I was preparing all along. This is urgent. Do not step back into those old mindsets just because it's familiar. You don't belong there anymore. The fire has changed you. And what emerged from that fire is not a victim. It's a vessel. One I can trust. One I can use. One I will now elevate before those who doubted. They'll look again, and this time, they'll see what I've seen in you all along. There hath been a divine verdict issued in realms you've never seen, and it carries your name on it. While you've been walking through life feeling unseen and passed over, the highest courts of eternity have been reviewing your record in complete detail. Nothing was missed. Nothing was overlooked. And now, the scrolls have been sealed with the evidence of your endurance, and the time for recognition has come. I'm telling you this with urgency. You are no longer waiting for approval. You have already been approved. I have stamped your name with heavenly authorization. You were not disqualified by your mistakes. You were not dismissed because of your past. You were approved because of the condition of your heart when no one was watching. The way you honored me in secret, the way you stayed humble when you were wrongly treated, the way you refused to become bitter when bitterness would have been easier. These things have been weighed in my presence. And now, your name is echoing across heaven, not as a prayer request, but as an answer in motion. I have summoned angels to begin delivering what is owed, not because you demanded it, but because I have determined it. The verdict in the courts of men is irrelevant when I have already declared my decision. Your approval is not tied to popularity, performance, or position. It was written when you said yes to me without needing to be seen. That yes, the one that came from a surrendered place, has carried more weight than any public display. And now, you're standing at the threshold of fulfillment. This is no longer a prayer waiting for timing. This is a decree waiting for your agreement. The books have been opened, and the decision is final. I want you to know that this is not temporary favor. This is a divine release tied to your legacy. The things you've been believing for, the doors that seemed eternally locked, the breakthroughs that always stayed one step ahead, they are now being unlocked because you have been verified by the one who holds the keys. You don't need to campaign for what I've already promised. You don't need to beg for what's being released. You don't need to prove anything to the people who doubted your calling. This is above their authority. This is above their system. This is from the courtroom where justice is never delayed. And right now, there is movement in your direction, not because you shouted the loudest, but because you remained faithful in the shadows. What others called delay, I called due process. What looked like stagnation was actually heavenly review. And the result is this. You are approved. Not someday. Not maybe. But now. So rise with confidence. Lift your head like someone who's already been chosen. Walk into this next season like someone who carries the weight of a heavenly signature behind every step. There's a reason doors are about to open without explanation. There's a reason favor is about to find you in unexpected ways. There's a reason your name is being spoken in places your feet haven't yet reached. Because I authorized it. I endorsed it. And I have placed your name in places of influence and impact because I can trust you not to use the reward for your own glory, but to reflect mine. This is happening swiftly, and it's not reversible. Heaven has ruled. Your season of waiting for permission is over. Now step into the reward that's already been written with your name on it. While your pillow soaked with unspoken sorrow and your breath grew heavy with pain you couldn't explain, I was not distant. Each tear carried more than emotion. It carried revelation, and I collected every one of them as seeds. I need you to hear me urgently. What felt like the end of your strength was not the end of your story. In the invisible realm, I was scripting chapters that couldn't be rushed, penning a future that needed to mature in silence. You cried, thinking those nights were wasted, thinking you were unraveling in a way that could never be restored. But I was near, closer than the darkness surrounding you. In those moments, when you doubted your worth, when you questioned your place in my plan, I was already authoring your next scene with care. Your sobs were sacred to me. The agony that crushed you in the night was birthing a divine shift that now refuses to be delayed any longer. You didn't know it, but while you were breaking, I was building doors that could only open after the weeping had finished its work. While your soul reached for answers in the silence, I was planting a future so detailed, so breathtaking, it could only be born through those quiet, tearful nights. Nothing was random. I used the ache to shape the assignment. You thought no one saw you crumble, but I saw it all. And not only did I see it, I turned those silent hours into the blueprint of something brand new. I never needed you to perform strength. I needed you to bring your brokenness. And you did. I did it again. You kept coming back to me when you had no words left, no hope to hold, no proof that it would ever change. But you came. And every time you did, I added another layer to the new beginning I was forming. That's why this moment is not just an improvement, it's a total renewal. What I'm bringing forth from the pain has no resemblance to what tried to crush you. I'm not recycling old things. I'm crafting something original, something born from every why you whispered into the night. The loss, the confusion, the heaviness. I was gathering it all and weaving a masterpiece no one will believe unless they know what you survived. This is important. The nights of sorrow didn't end in emptiness. They birthed resurrection. And now that the tears have done their work, you are standing at the edge of the unveiling. You won't need to explain how you made it here. Your story will carry a fragrance that only brokenness refined by fire can carry. There are beginnings opening up for you right now that have never been touched by human hands. They've been hidden until now, protected for such a time as this, because I knew you would need something pure to emerge after so much pain. This isn't a continuation of the old. This is the emergence of the divine. You don't have to apologize for the tears. You don't have to minimize what you walked through. They all matter. They all counted. And now, every drop of sorrow had been exchanged for strategy. The season that broke you will become the soil that reveals you. Because while you thought you were falling apart in the dark, I was finishing a design that required midnight to unfold. And now, child, the morning is beginning to rise, and with it, the new beginning that I've waited patiently to place in your hands. The restrictions that wrapped themselves around your life like invisible cords, keeping you from rising, from moving, from breathing freely, are being broken in this very hour. What once confined you will no longer have access to your next steps. You must hear this with urgency. The testing is not only over, the residue it tried to leave behind is being stripped away permanently. The patterns that slowed you, the cycles that made you feel like you were always starting over, the internal battles that whispered you were stuck, those are no longer authorized to continue. I am breaking them, not gently, but violently, because they have no place in the story I am unfolding now. You are not a prisoner anymore. That label does not belong to you. You are not under probation. You are under promotion. And I will not allow the chains of your previous trial to follow you into this new dimension of purpose. Every limitation that was tied to the last season is being disconnected from your identity. You are no longer bound to the way things used to be. The invisible walls that kept you circling the same emotional ground are being demolished by my word. What once silenced your confidence is being silenced itself. I am speaking with authority now, and chains do not survive my voice. What held you back? Shame, fear, hesitation, regret. Those have lost their grip. You may feel them trying to cling to your thoughts, but they are only echoes. Their root had been cut off. You're not returning to where you were, not even in your thinking. This moment is not a suggestion. It is a command. And chains obey when I declare freedom. I saw how many times you tried to break free on your own. I saw how you prayed, how you fasted, how you cried out, wondering why the restrictions wouldn't lift. But now you'll understand. I was saving the moment for my hand alone to do it. So you would never give the credit to a formula or a system. So you would know it wasn't your effort, but my intervention. And now that the timing has aligned, the chains are not being loosened. They are being shattered. Irreversibly. I am doing this completely, not gradually. You won't have to manage your bondage anymore. You will walk out of it. You will walk out of what gripped your mind, your emotions, your atmosphere. You will rise, and it will be evident to others that something snapped in the spirit. Not because you tried harder, but because I stepped in with my authority and said, enough. You need to believe this with everything in you. Today is not symbolic. It's surgical. What I'm cutting away is being removed without scar. The cords of weariness are being burned away. The labels from failure are being erased. The cords of delay are being severed at the root. You may still feel the memory of the weight, but that weight is no longer real. It's being lifted off your shoulders, even now as you receive this. Do not let your thoughts drag you backward. The testing season tried to imprison you in patterns of defeat. But I am now flooding you with the ability to walk forward freely. Not timidly, not cautiously, but boldly. I've broken the grip of everything that tried to define you by your weakness, and I'm replacing it with clarity, confidence, and capacity. This is your day of release. Not just spiritual, tangible, emotional, mental, financial, relational. Every area that was tied down is being unbound. This is what I've been preparing you for. Not just to survive freedom, but to walk in it without fear. The doors are not only open, the chains are no longer attached. So move now, like someone who's finally free. There were moments when you stared into the silence and thought it meant I wasn't moving. You scanned the horizon of your life, searching for signs, for shifts, for evidence that your prayers had reached me, and all you saw was stillness. But child, what you thought was absence was actually arrangement. I wasn't ignoring you. I was hiding what I was building because the surprise required secrecy. This is urgent. I had to keep certain doors closed to protect what I was placing behind them. You would have walked in too soon had I given you a glimpse. You would have settled for less if I had shown you a fraction of what I was preparing. That's why you couldn't trace me. That's why everything felt hidden. The greatest moves I make are often the quietest. While your mind was racing with questions, I was crafting something too specific for your understanding to handle at the time. I didn't want you to interfere by overthinking. I wanted your trust, not your control. You prayed for breakthrough with designing something better, something unexpected, and that required hiding it from your line of sight. The silence you experienced was not abandonment. It was a strategy. I was covering what I was forming until it was ready to be revealed. Not because I wanted to keep you in suspense, but because I wanted the unveiling to catch you completely off guard, in the best way possible. I wanted the blessing to walk in without a warning, because only then would you know it wasn't orchestrated by your effort. This surprise will leave no room for coincidence. You will not be able to say, "I saw this coming." No, this will be a moment that silences every doubt, a blessing that confronts every fear, a shift so complete that it demands you acknowledge that I was working behind the scenes the entire time. What I've been preparing doesn't fit in the timeline you imagined. It doesn't follow the structure you were taught to expect. It's coming from an angle you didn't plan for, and that's how you'll know it's me. Because I'm not just answering the prayer you prayed, I'm exceeding it. I'm not just restoring what was lost, I'm replacing it with something greater than you could define. The people who thought you were finished will be speechless. The ones who thought the silence meant you were wrong will now see that you were right to wait. You see, I often hide the most beautiful things during their formation. Seeds go underground before they bloom. Diamonds are pressed in the deepest places before they shine. And the surprise I've hidden for you has been growing under pressure. Now, that pressure has completed its work, and the release is at hand. But don't try to explain how it happened. You won't be able to. This will be the kind of shift that only heaven could author. A reversal that only I could arrange. It's coming when they least expect it. It's arriving at the point where even you began to feel numb. That's the moment I love most. When man's ability runs out, and my glory takes over. So if you felt forgotten, misunderstood, or misplaced, that was part of the setup. I had to let you feel hidden so the surprise would be unmissable. I had to let you sit in the quiet so the sound of what's arriving would awaken something in you permanently. This is not just an answered prayer. This is a surprise that carries purpose, timing, and transformation. And it's coming into view now, ready or not. This moment is not symbolic. It is the manifestation of what had been building for far too long behind closed doors. Every second you stood still while others moved forward. Every hour you remained faithful while your life looked like it was standing still. All of it has been leading to this eruption. The waiting is no longer stretching ahead of you. It is collapsing beneath the weight of what I am now unleashing. This is urgent. What was stored is now being poured. What was held back is now being thrust forward. You are no longer in preparation mode. You are in the hour of release. The tension you've been feeling lately, that strange pressure in your spirit that made no sense, that was the ground beginning to crack. That was the signal that the testimony buried deep within your wilderness is pushing up through the surface. And when it comes forth, it will not whisper. It will roar. You didn't just endure for your own sake. You endured because this moment, this breakthrough, this eruption of promise was not just about survival, it was about legacy. There is something generational that's about to break out of your life. What you thought was delay was actually a divine build-up. You couldn't see it, but every moment of silence was stacking like pressure behind a dam. And now, that dam has reached capacity. I am breaking it wide open, and your testimony is going to rush like a river. You won't have to try to explain what you've been through. The results will speak louder than anything your mouth could declare. The very things that tried to bury you are now going to be the foundation of your greatest revelation. I didn't let you go through all of that just to give you relief. I let it shape a story that will carry my fingerprints in every detail. What I'm doing now is public, because what you carried privately was sacred. It's time for people to see that I was in every detail, that I didn't abandon you in the delay, that I was writing a story too powerful to be rushed. Hear me now. You are walking into visibility, not to elevate yourself, but to reveal the one who sustained you. You are being positioned, not for applause, but for impact. And it's happening because you didn't collapse in the waiting room. You worshiped. You hoped. You fought with tears in your eyes and breathless prayers when words wouldn't come. And now, the waiting is over. The shift is not pending. It has begun. You don't have to beg me to move anymore. I am already moving, and I am not slowing down. What was once invisible is now about to be undeniable. The pain, the confusion, the years you thought were lost, I'm turning all of it into testimony. Not just one story, but many. Not just for you, but for everyone connected to you. This testimony is going to ripple outward, touching places you've never been, opening doors you never knocked on, confirming things you once doubted. You thought it was just about making it through, but I've turned your endurance into an eruption that will wake up others still trapped in silence. And this is why you must rise now, because it's time. It's time for the world to see what I was doing in you while they looked away. It's time for your life to speak loudly, not in defense, but in declaration. What was once concealed is now exploding into fulfillment. And nothing can hold it back now. Not fear, not history, not opinion. Your testimony is rising, and it will not be quiet. There were days when you whispered silent prayers just to be noticed. Moments when you stood at the edge of opportunity, wondering if you'd ever be invited in. Just one chance, just one opening, just one moment of mercy. You watched others occupy spaces you only dreamed of, feeling like an outsider looking in, wondering if you'd ever be chosen. But hear me now with urgency. The season of waiting outside is over. I am calling you to step into the very rooms you once longed for, not as a visitor, but as someone who belongs. You won't be peeking through the cracks anymore. You will be walking through the door with confidence I myself have placed upon you. No one can deny what I've authorized. The ground you used to only see from afar is now your new territory. This isn't about pride. This is about prophecy. What you once prayed for through tears, you will now carry in your hands. What you thought was forever out of reach is now within the grasp of your assignment. The places that once felt too high for your feet to touch are now being lowered into your path, because I have made you ready. You don't have to beg anymore. You don't have to ask them to let you in. I am sending you where I have already gone ahead. And I am clearing the path, not for your comfort, but for my glory. They'll ask how you got in. They'll wonder why the doors swung open for you when others waited years. But what they won't see is how you kept showing up in the spirit when there was no visible result. They didn't see the years you sowed in silence, the hours you praised me when it didn't seem like I was listening. I saw it, and I never forgot. It's why this reversal is so precise. I am placing you in environments where your name was never mentioned, because I am now highlighting what I placed in you that could no longer remain hidden. This is more than placement. This is fulfillment. It's not a coincidence that the very places where you once felt invisible are now calling your name. That's how I work. I don't just restore, I reverse the humiliation and turn it into elevation. You'll be seated where you were once denied. You'll be celebrated where you were once ignored. You'll walk in and they'll have no choice but to recognize the authority you carry. Not because you forced your way in, but because I've cleared the way. I'm sending you in with peace, with confidence, with clarity. You will not be intimidated. You will not feel lesser. The insecurity that gripped you before has been severed. What once made you feel small will now become the place where your voice carries weight. Because I've transformed you. You don't need their validation when you've been sealed by my hand. So get ready. The tables are turning. The very gates that once shut in your face are now being commanded to lift up. You're not the same person who stood outside weeping for a breakthrough. You're walking in as one who has been tested, proven, and released. And when your feet touch the ground, it will shake atmospheres, not because of who you are, but because of who sent you. I've preserved this moment for such a time as this. And now that it's here, don't shrink back. Don't apologize. Don't hesitate. Walk in with the knowledge that every denied access was only preparing you to take your place with power. What you once begged for, you will now inherit. And you will walk with confidence into rooms you once only dreamed of, because I have made it so. What you walked through left bruises, not all visible but all real. You've carried reminders of the season that tested you beyond what words could express. The fear that lingered even after the storm ended, the emotional exhaustion that clung to your soul like residue, the heaviness that stayed even when the pressure lifted, all of it, I saw. And now, I speak this over your life with divine urgency. I am not just ending the trial. I am erasing the marks it tried to leave behind. The evidence of what hurt you will not follow you into this new place. The sting that reminded you of where you were will no longer define where you're going. I'm not letting the past trail behind you like a shadow. I'm restoring more than what was lost. I'm cleansing even the memory of it. You won't keep flinching every time someone speaks a word that reminds you of that season. You won't feel the tightness in your chest when you pass places that were once soaked with pain. This is deeper than closure. This is full healing. I'm reaching into places in your heart that even you tried to avoid. You learned how to smile through the struggle. You learned how to keep walking while hiding the limp. But now, I'm healing what you never showed anyone. This is not temporary relief. This is a supernatural recovery. And it's happening now. I'm restoring not just your energy, but your essence. The part of you that grew numb just to survive. I'm waking that back up. The part that forgot how to hope. I'm breathing life into it again. I'm making sure that when you step into the fulfillment of my promise, you don't carry traces of trauma with you. The doors I'm opening require wholeness, not just presence. That's why I've waited until now, because I'm not sending you into this next chapter limping. I'm sending you renewed. Not just emotionally, but spiritually, mentally, and physically. Even the damage that happened in your body while you endured stress, I'm reversing it. Even the tension that lived in your muscles, the restlessness in your sleep, the ache in your spirit, I'm releasing all of it. And I'm doing it because I don't want you to settle for functional. I want you fully alive, completely restored, loving missing, loving hidden. I'm not just God over outcomes. I'm Lord over the internal condition of your soul. So today, receive this. You are not just coming out. You are being made whole. No more reliving the breaking. No more rehearsing the loss. No more wondering what could have been. I'm rewriting your memory with peace. You'll look back and remember that it happened, but it won't sting anymore. The scar will not throb. The triggers will be dissolved. Your heart will beat steady again. Your mind will think clearly again. And your joy will not be forced. It will flow. I'm removing the evidence. Not so you can forget what I brought you through, but so you no longer have to carry the weight of how it felt. The testimony will remain, but the torment will not. This is the kind of healing that only I can do, where the wound isn't just closed, it's transformed. And when others ask how you recovered so completely, you won't need to explain. You'll just say, "He touched me," and everything changed. So rest now, child. The part of you that was still flinching is safe. I've come to heal what the test couldn't destroy. And from this moment forward, you'll move freely, without pain trailing behind your promise. You didn't see it at the time, but every step you took through the storm, every moment you chose to stand when it would have been easier to collapse, was turning a key in the realm of heaven. What others called unnecessary suffering, I called preparation with purpose. And now, child, the door that once remained closed has swung wide open. But this is not a reward for showing up once or for being perfect. This is the result of consistent endurance when it seemed like nothing would ever shift. This is urgent. I want you to understand that the things about to come into your hands were not withheld to hurt you. They were preserved until you were strong enough to carry them without them crushing your spirit. There are blessings that would have broken you if I had given them too soon. But today is different. Today is significant. Because this is the day when what you carried through pain becomes what you now receive in promise. You didn't just wait, you grew. You didn't just hold on, you deepened. And because of that, I can now trust you with more. This isn't just about open doors. This is about rightful inheritance. The path was painful, yes, but it also shaped you into a vessel with capacity. The very thing that felt like it was stripping you was actually stretching you, preparing room for what I'm now about to release. Don't look at this with timid hands. Receive it with boldness. Your name has been attached to promises that required you to survive what others couldn't see. You passed tests no one acknowledged. You endured battles that never made it to the surface. But I saw everyone. I measured your faith when you had no clarity. I watched you surrender what you loved, trusting that I would return it in better form. And today, the divine order has been issued. Unlock what was earned through unseen perseverance. The prayers that had no words, the days that drained you completely, the nights where hope seemed far, all of that has accumulated, and now it has burst into fulfillment. The wait is not just ending, it's producing. And what it's producing is going to feel like more than you ever asked for. Because I'm not giving you fragments. I'm handing you fullness. Not partial answers, not glimpses, but full circle redemption. What didn't make sense before will start aligning with such precision that you'll realize none of the struggle was wasted. You will see how everything, even the suffering, was unlocking something you didn't even know to ask for. But you must recognize this moment. This is not a season for questioning whether or not you deserve what's coming. You must understand that it was endurance that opened this dimension. And because you remained, you now receive. You were faithful in lack, now watch me overflow. You were steady in darkness, now feel the warmth of what's rising. You kept showing up when everything screamed to give up. And now, I'm showing you why it mattered. I never told you the full picture before because I wanted your endurance to be born from trust, not transaction. But now that the time is right, I'm unveiling the reward. And what's more, this is just the beginning. You haven't just crossed into a blessing, you've crossed into a momentum. Things will start accelerating. Doors will open without you knocking. People will seek you out without you announcing your name. The honor is coming, and it's coming from my hand. So open your spirit wide, because I'm not finished releasing. This is only what the first act of endurance unlocked, and there is so much more still waiting to flow through your persistence. You heard their voices, not just in the natural, but in the spiritual realm as well. They whispered, they laughed, they pointed to your stillness and called it failure. They looked at your pause and assumed it meant the end. But what they didn't know is that I don't measure progress the way they do. I don't panic when things slow down. I don't lose control when momentum halts. I orchestrate pauses with the same authority I command breakthroughs. I allow what looks like a stop to be the sacred ground where resurrection is scheduled. This is urgent. They misread your delay as defeat, but I had already marked a date on heaven's calendar where your revival would be undeniable. You see, I allowed the pause not to punish you, but to preserve you. What they couldn't see was the internal work I was doing while nothing external made sense. They saw a person sitting in stillness, but I saw a warrior being recharged. They saw halted motion, but I saw divine recalibration. The pause was never the end of your story. It was the deep breath before the greatest movement of your life. I hid your progress so it wouldn't be tainted by the voices of those who didn't understand your process. While they judged what they didn't see, I was arranging what they'll soon have no choice but to witness. Resurrection was not just coming. It was being engineered during the quiet. And now, child, the pause is lifting. The silence is breaking. The momentum is rising. But don't rise with bitterness. Rise with awareness. Not everyone who watched your stillness will be ready for your elevation. Some will try to downplay what I'm doing. Others will scramble to find reasons to explain it away. Let them talk. Let them wonder. You don't owe explanations for a resurrection I scheduled long before they noticed your pain. I am bringing you out of the hidden season not just to bless you, but to vindicate you. The very ones who said you missed your moment will now watch as I launch you into something greater than their predictions. They expected your fall to be final, but I've scripted your comeback to be undeniable. And this is not a slow return. This is not a gentle re-entry. This is a rising, rapid, clear, unstoppable. I have timed your emergence so precisely that every detail will scream, "Only God." You won't have to shout. You won't need to prove. Your fruit will speak for itself. The pause they mocked will become the very testimony that draws others to me. They'll ask how you made it out. They'll want to know how you went from forgotten to favored. And in that moment, you will say what I've always wanted you to say. It was never over. I was just in God's hands. Because that's the truth. Even in the stillness, I was holding you. Even in the void, I was growing you. And now, I'm ready to show what I've formed in the hidden place. You are not behind. You are not late. You are on schedule with resurrection. The breath of revival is entering your lungs again. The vision you laid down is lifting up again. And the doors you thought were closed forever are unlocking themselves in front of you. All of it is proof that your pause was never wasted. It was part of my plan all along. There were times you could have turned your back. Times when walking away would have been easier than staying rooted in uncertainty. You had every reason to quit. Relationships ended. Support vanished. Even your own hope wavered. But still you stayed. Not because you had answers, but because deep inside your soul, something kept whispering, "Hold on a little longer." That whisper was me. And now I speak with clarity and urgency. I saw you stay when it would have been more comfortable to leave. I saw you plant your feet in the midst of chaos. I saw you cling to my promise when people let go of you. You didn't chase applause. You didn't seek shortcuts. You didn't abandon the process just to avoid the pain. Instead, you chose to remain where I placed you, and because of that, I am lifting you now with my own hand. This isn't a promotion based on popularity. This is elevation based on loyalty. I'm not raising you because others cheered for you. I'm raising you because you stayed with me when the crowd disappeared. You didn't manipulate moments for recognition. You didn't compromise truth for comfort. You stayed true to the vision even when it cost you comfort. And now, I'm moving swiftly on your behalf. This is not a subtle shift. This is an undeniable lifting. I am raising you from the same place where others thought you would never recover. The very ground where they left you is the ground from which I will raise you. And it won't be quiet. I'm lifting you in such a way that those who walked away will have to look again. Not to shame them, but to reveal my faithfulness in your story. You didn't beg anyone to stay. You didn't chase those who abandoned their post. You fixed your eyes on me. You endured the lonely hours. You survived the quiet betrayals. You remained planted when your heart was fractured. And that, child, is the kind of faith I reward. Staying power is rare. Many begin with passion, but not all remain with endurance. You endured. And now I honor that. I'm raising you into visibility, not because you sought it, but because you were faithful in obscurity. You honored my presence more than you desired promotion. And for that, I've chosen to exalt you, not in secret, but in the open. This elevation will not require striving. This next level is not something you'll have to force. You won't need to explain how you got here. Your history with me will explain it for you. I am raising you on the strength of your perseverance, on the integrity of your process, on the sincerity of your surrender. The reward for staying is not just survival, it's honor. And I'm clothing you in it. The same places that overlooked you will now make room for you. The same voices that were silent in your valley will be witnesses to your rising. But this isn't about them. It's about what I'm doing through you. You stayed, not for applause, but because your heart was anchored in me. You didn't stay for the reward, you stayed for my presence. And that is why the reward will find you now. Not just one door, but many. Not just small moments, but massive movement. I'm lifting you above the noise, into a space where you'll walk in the fruit of everything you stood for. You stayed, child. And now, I'm lifting you higher than they thought you'd ever reach. This is not the result of chance, this is the fulfillment of endurance. Now rise, because the time of staying hidden has ended, and the season of divine recognition has begun. What is unfolding before you now is far more than the end of a trial. This is not simply a door opening or a season shifting. This is heaven announcing that you have completed something sacred. You didn't just survive a difficulty, you completed an assignment. And I, the Lord your God, am marking this moment as a graduation, not in the way man defines education, but in the way I declare promotion over perseverance. This is urgent. Many experience glimpses of change, but few are approved for divine transition. What you're stepping into now isn't just new, it's higher. You've crossed a threshold where you will no longer be tested in the same ways. The curriculum of your last season has ended. The repeated patterns, the unrelenting refining, the seasons of mystery and hiddenness, they weren't punishment. They were classrooms. You didn't even know it, but you were being educated in the Spirit. Every time you waited with patience when everything screamed for action, you were advancing. Every time you chose stillness over retaliation, humility over defense, surrender over control, you were passing spiritual exams designed to stretch your capacity for destiny. And now, child, I'm placing a seal upon you that says, approved. You didn't even realize how far you'd come because the process was so painful. But I did. And I kept track of your growth when you thought nothing was happening. I watched you evolve from someone searching for answers into someone who trusted me without needing them. A kind of trust is rare. That kind of transformation is what qualifies you for more. And so I say this now. You have graduated. You are no longer in the same realm. You may look the same outwardly, but your spirit carries a weight it did not carry before. You've earned the authority I am about to place on your life. This is not given lightly. This level of assignment is released only when I can trust the heart of the one who carries it. And you've proven yourself, not by might, but by surrender. This graduation is not about a title or a platform. It's about mantle. You're being clothed with something eternal, something unshakable. And with it comes access, not just to blessings but to impact. You will walk into environments where darkness once ruled, and the light I've cultivated in you will cause confusion to break. You will carry a peace that silences storms, a wisdom that penetrates chaos, a grace that causes even hardened hearts to pause. Why? Because you let me process you. You let me prune what was unnecessary. You let me remove what was convenient to make space for what was holy. And that is why this isn't just a moment. It's a marker. From this point forward, things will not function the way they did before. You'll notice it. The way your words carry more weight. The way people respond to your presence without knowing why. The way doors open without you asking. That's not coincidence. That's graduation. You didn't climb a ladder. You passed a threshold. So don't return to the old ways of navigating. Don't look to familiar voices for validation. They can't see what I've placed on you because they weren't present for the process. But I was. I walked with you through every test. And now, I walk with you into this new level of release. Receive this with urgency, not as a gift you must earn, but as a mantle I am laying on your shoulders now. You are ready. You are chosen. And you are graduated into the fullness of what I always knew you'd carry. They thought it was over when the weight fell on you. The pressure was too much, the betrayal too sharp, the silence too long. Even you questioned how much more you could take. It felt like you were being buried, dreams, confidence, strength, all collapsing beneath the surface of circumstance. But child, listen closely and receive this with urgency. It was never a burial. It was a planting. The soil they threw on you wasn't to keep you hidden. It was the covering I used to prepare you for an emergence they wouldn't be able to stop. What cry others didn't cry you, it deepened you. And now, in this very hour, what once tried to trap you has become your foundation. What was over your head is now under your feet. You are rising, not in defiance, but in authority. Not because you escaped the pit, but because I transformed it into a platform. I want you to see this clearly. You are not a victim of that season. You are a survivor of what should have destroyed you. You didn't call out on your own. I lifted you, not just to rescue you, but to reposition you. Every lie they told, every limit they placed, every closed door they celebrated, all of it has been flipped. The weight that once suffocated your joy has now become the proof of your resilience. The labels that were thrown over your life like a grave cloth have been removed, and in their place is the robe of one who has conquered the very pit that was meant to erase them. You won't walk through life with your head down anymore. You won't carry shame for how long the storm lasted. You won't apologize for the time it took to find your footing again. Because now, every step you take is on ground that once threatened to trap you. I've turned the battlefield into your testimony. The same voices that dismissed you will now witness the rise they thought was impossible. And this time, they won't be able to deny it. You won't have to fight for attention. You won't have to explain why you disappeared for a while. They're seeing the bow to wing the power of the peace. They'll feel the shift when you walk into the room. Because when I raise someone who was buried, they don't come out the same. They come out refined. They come out dangerous to darkness. They come out with clarity no storm can steal. This is not your comeback. This is your takeover. Not over people, but over every force that once tried to convince you that you were done. The lies that once circled your mind have no voice now. The fear that used to freeze you has no grip now. The hopelessness that visited you in the night hath been evicted. And the most beautiful part, what once sat heavy on you is now the very thing I'll use to help others rise. You're not just standing above it, you're conquering through it. Every tear, every wound, every lonely hour, I'm using all of it to lift others who are still stuck beneath what you've now stepped over. You are proof that I waste nothing. You are living evidence that what the enemy sends to destroy, I redeem to build. And now, with every step forward, you will feel it. The ground is different. It's not shaking anymore. It's steady. Because it's not just ground, it's ground gained. You earned this terrain through battle, and now you own it through victory. So walk tall, speak boldly, carry the awareness that what tried to bury you only made you unshakable. This is your time to rise without limits, because everything beneath your feet was once your mountain, and now it's your stepping stone. You've questioned it more than once. You wondered if too much time had passed, if the delay had cost you something permanent. You looked at others stepping into their promises and began to believe that maybe yours had expired. You feared the moments you hesitated, the seasons where doubt crept in, had disqualified you from what I spoke. But hear me now, and hear me urgently. You did not miss it. You are not too late. What I have for you cannot be stolen, delayed forever, or passed on to someone else. The real blessing is not behind you. It's just beginning. You didn't lose your moment. You were being prepared for the right one. And that moment is arriving now. What you thought was an ending was actually a redirection. I allowed certain paths to close so you wouldn't settle for less than what I intended. I shielded you from opportunities that looked good but would have drained your spirit. I blocked some connections because I saw what they would cost you in the long run. You mourn the doors I shut, but soon you will rejoice over the doors I'm about to open. Because these doors lead to more than what you imagined. They lead to peace that doesn't require performance. Rebellion that isn't dependent on pressure. Purpose that doesn't feel like punishment. What I'm releasing now is not a recovery of what you lost. It's the revelation of what you never even knew was being held for you. And it's better. It's deeper. It's perfectly timed. I know it felt like others passed you by. I know it seemed like they were running ahead while you were stuck in place. But I wasn't keeping you still. I was protecting your pace. I don't operate according to human calendars. I move in divine alignment. And your time, yes, yours has arrived. You didn't miss your window. I held the window open until you were healed enough to walk through it whole. This blessing is not a consolation prize. It's not good enough. It's the real thing. The one tailored to who you've become. The one that fits the new you, the refined you, the version of you that knows how to carry glory without needing validation. That's why it had to take time. That's why it couldn't come earlier. The blessing is not just about what's coming. It's about who you are now to receive it. You can recognize deception now. You can handle responsibility now. You can move with discernment now. And because of that, I can trust you with more. You'll see it unfold, not all at once, but steadily, undeniably. Opportunities will find you without striving. Resources will locate you without begging. Relationships will align without forcing. This is the blessing I promised. And it is beginning now. I want you to stop living like you missed your turn. I want you to walk forward like someone who has been appointed, not someone who's barely hanging on. What I've prepared for you has not passed you. It's been waiting for this version of you. So step forward, not in fear, but in full assurance that I still finish what I start. You didn't miss it, child. You were never forgotten. And now that the season of preparation has closed, the blessing I've ordained is stepping into motion. Don't look back anymore. Don't replay what you think went wrong. Look ahead. Because what's ahead carries more promise than anything you ever lost. This isn't delayed mercy, it's perfect timing. And it begins now. You thought the chaos was just meant to shake your surroundings, but what I was really watching was deeper. Not the surface, but the structure. I didn't send the storm to destroy you. I allowed it to expose the unseen, the hidden places of your foundation, the parts of you no one else could see, not even you. While winds howled and distractions swirled around you, I wasn't observing how fast you moved or how strong you appeared. I was listening for one thing. Did your roots hold? This is urgent, because too many confuse outward activity with inward depth. But I knew what was coming ahead in your life, and I couldn't let you be elevated on shallow ground. So I let the storm rage. I let voices rise against you, situations spin out of control, doors unexpectedly slam shut. Not because I wanted to see you fall, but because I was anchoring you in a way that applause never could. What you called an attack was actually a deep soil inspection. I needed to see if you'd hold your posture when everything above ground started shaking. Would you keep trusting when nothing made sense? Would you stay rooted when it felt like you were being overlooked? Would you worship when it was inconvenient, praise when no one was watching, believe when even hope felt risky? And you did. That's what I saw. Not perfection, but perseverance. And in that hidden space, your roots grew stronger, deeper, wiser. What others saw as your stillness, I saw as your spiritual development. You were growing in places where it mattered most. Not in the spotlight, but in the soil. The loudness of the storm made it feel like you were being torn apart, but in truth, your roots were wrapping tighter around the rock beneath you, me. And now, because you didn't uproot yourself in panic, I can trust you with more weight. The elevation you're about to step into won't topple you, because the foundation is now secure. People may marvel at your fruit in this next season, but I want you to always remember, it was your roots I was after. The fruit will be public, but the roots are personal. No one saw how you held on. No one understood what it took to keep believing. No one witnessed the silent nights where you planted your face to the ground and cried out for me, not because it was trendy, but because it was all you had left. And I honored that. I still do. I've been waiting for this moment, not to reward your noise, but to reward your depth. You are now ready to carry what shallow souls cannot contain. And that's why I'm about to place a weight of glory on your life that will require nothing from the surface. You won't have to perform, push, or promote yourself. Your rootedness will speak for you. Your stability will make room for you. And the wind will no longer frighten you, because you've already proven you can withstand what was meant to snap you. I allowed the storm so your identity would no longer be tied to outcomes. And now, your roots are firm. Your heart is steady. And your next steps will be solid, not because of what's around you, but because of what's beneath you. You've been planted well. And now, I'm about to show the world what grows from ground tested in the storm. You never realized it, but heaven was watching every moment you chose me quietly, faithfully, and without recognition. While others shouted their devotion in public, your obedience echoed in a different realm, not with noise, but with power. And it was louder than you think. You need to hear this now. I was not looking for performance. I was watching for persistence. In the moments you could have taken shortcuts, when compromise was more accessible than peace, when giving in would have relieved the weight, you stayed aligned with what I asked of you. That obedience was louder than 1,000 declarations. You did obey me when it was easy. You obeyed me when it cost you, when it meant walking alone, when it required silence, when it demanded surrender without confirmation. That is the obedience that draws my glory. You didn't choose me because it was comfortable. You chose me because your heart belonged to me. I saw you when you held your tongue to protect peace. I heard your whisper of yes when everyone else chose comfort. That yes may have felt small to you, but it thundered in my presence. Obedience under pressure carries a sound that cannot be faked. It is the sound of trust that goes deeper than convenience. It is the sound of a soul that has been tested and still bends toward righteousness. You need to understand this urgently. The reason favor is about to flow in unexpected directions is because I am responding to your decisions in the dark. People saw your restraint and thought it was weakness, but I knew it was wisdom. They thought your silence meant defeat, but I knew it was discipline. You honored me not with perfection, but with posture, the posture of humility, of reverence, of surrender. You made hard decisions without needing applause. You laid down your desires when no one was watching. You chose integrity over opportunity. And because of that, I am now opening what was once locked. Your obedience carried more weight than your circumstances. When fear tried to convince you to run, you stayed. When others used their pain as permission to rebel, you let yours become an altar. I haven't forgotten a single act of obedience. Every time you chose me over your own logic, it became a seed that's now bearing fruit. This next season of blessing is not random. It is the response to everything you chose in the furnace. And now that you've passed through the fire without losing your faith, I'm giving you favor that can't be faked. You didn't rush my timing. You didn't manipulate outcomes. You stayed under the pressure, even when it bent you low. But I never intended for it to break you. I was shaping something inside of you that could carry more than you imagined. The weight you felt then is now becoming the weight of glory I am placing on your life. You will walk into rooms and not need to speak, because the atmosphere will recognize what you carry. You will move in quiet strength, not needing to convince anyone of your worth. Your obedience already spoke. And now, I speak in response. I say yes to the dreams you laid down. I say release to the answers you waited for. I say forward to the feet that stayed planted. This is not just about reward. It's about trust. I can trust you now with more because you obeyed me when it felt like you had nothing left. You didn't quit when you had the chance. And that kind of loyalty moves the heart of God. So walk now, not in pride, but in authority, because what's being released over your life is not a reaction to your words, but to the quiet obedience that roared through heaven. To those around you, it looked like nothing was moving. The silence was misinterpreted. They saw your stillness as stagnation, your patience as passivity, and your slow progress as failure. But what they didn't know, and what I want you to understand with urgency, is that every second I held you in place, I was not delaying your purpose. I was developing your dominion. I don't waste time. I wield it with precision. And while they were trying to measure your success by timelines and checklists, I was measuring the depth of your surrender, the steadiness of your character, and the strength of your resolve. Dominion isn't handed to those who sprint. It's entrusted to those who endure. And you, my child, endured. When others lost focus, you leaned in. When doors didn't open, you didn't try to pry them. You waited on me. You stayed under my instruction when walking away would have been easier. And that discipline, that steady refusal to act ahead of my voice, has birthed a level of dominion that cannot be shaken by opposition or flattery. You see, delay in the natural is often development in the spiritual. You were being trained not just to lead, but to carry. Not just to influence, but to withstand. I had to teach you how to remain calm in chaos, how to listen when emotions screamed, how to act with wisdom instead of impulse. And that kind of mastery only comes through discipline, the kind that doesn't always feel rewarding in the moment, but builds an unshakable foundation over time. I allowed the long nights, not to frustrate you, but to refine you. I allowed repeated tests, not to crush your spirit, but to confirm your readiness. And now, because you submitted to the process, I'm handing you access. What was once withheld is being released, not because the delay has expired, but because the discipline has produced exactly what I needed it to. You won't just walk in blessing, you'll govern it. You'll manage what others mishandled. You'll step into places and command peace, not through volume, but through spiritual authority. And that authority didn't come through applause. It came through submission. You surrendered your timeline. You yielded your plans. You chose faith over force. And because of that, I am now trusting you with more than a moment. I'm giving you dominion over territory. You will not only occupy, you will influence, transform, and lead. Others will marvel at the suddenness of your emergence, but you'll know it wasn't sudden at all. It was years of silence turned into strength. It was delay turned into discipline, now manifested as dominion. And you won't use this dominion to elevate yourself. You'll use it to set captives free. You'll lift the broken. You'll speak life to the weary. Because the discipline shaped your heart to look like mine. That's why the delay was necessary, to align your motives with my mission. So don't resent the time it took. Rejoice, because it made you unmovable. You're not easily shaken anymore. You're not desperate for validation. You're rooted in truth. And from this place of depth, I will expand your reach. This is not about regaining lost time. This is about walking in the fullness of what's been maturing in you all along. They saw a pause. I saw a preparation. And now, I release the reward of discipline, not just as a blessing, but as dominion you will carry forward into every space I send you next. The weight you carried, the pain you pressed through, the confusion that never received answers, it all led to this moment. This is not a day like the others. This is not another quiet sunrise marking another silent stretch of endurance. No, today is different. Today is a divine turning point, where what once crushed you is now being converted into your greatest weapon of witness. The test didn't break you. It built something unshakable in you. And now, I am releasing permission for you to speak from a place of victory, not survival. What once silenced you will now be the very story that sets others free. This is urgent. You not underestimate the power of what you've lived through. It wasn't wasted. It wasn't random. It was a proving ground. And now that the proving is complete, I am authorizing your voice to carry the evidence of what I've done. You don't need to fabricate impact. Your scars are already sacred. You don't need to convince anyone of your strength. Your endurance already shouted louder than words ever could. This is more than a personal victory. This is a commissioning. You are being sent forth as one who carries testimony, not theory. You know what it feels like to be in the middle of a storm with no clarity and still choose to trust. You know what it feels like to be on the edge of giving up and still whisper, "God, I'll wait." And because of that, your testimony has weight. It doesn't just inspire, it transforms. You didn't memorize a message, you became one. You embody the very power you prayed for. And now, I am going to use that for my glory. I will open doors where your voice will break chains. I will draw people to your story not for entertainment, but for deliverance. They will listen, not because you are eloquent, but because you are real. Because there is oil on what you walk through. The press was painful, yes, but it produced something holy. And I'm not asking you to perform, I'm asking you to release what I've placed inside you. Every time you share your journey, heaven will move. Every time you testify to what I've done, chains will begin to loosen in someone else. You may not feel qualified, but that's the beauty of it. It was never about qualification. It was always about consecration. You were set apart, not because you were stronger, but because you stayed. And now the test has flipped. It's no longer a source of torment. It's a fountain of breakthrough. You'll look at the things that once made you cry and realize they've become your platform for praise. You'll revisit places that once hurt and release healing. Because what I've done in you wasn't just for you, it was for everyone you're about to encounter. The enemy tried to make you hide in shame. But I'm calling you to rise in boldness. This is your moment. Don't silence the testimony trying to be polite. Don't shrink back because you fear what they'll think. I gave you this story on purpose. I shaped it in the fire. And I will now breathe on it with power. The same test that almost took you out will now be the reason people encounter me. And you, my child, will know that I truly do work all things together, even the things you never asked for, even the trials you didn't see coming, even the pain you never planned. It all has purpose now. The test has become a torch, and I am setting it ablaze. There was a reason it felt unbearable at times, the kind of weight that pressed into your chest without warning, the kind of pressure that drained you long before the day had ended. What you carrying was not ordinary. The intensity wasn't just an emotional strain or a circumstantial burden. It was spiritual, divinely allowed, carefully measured, and designed for a purpose greater than you could see at the time. And now, I reveal this with urgency. The heaviness was not in vain. The depth of the pressure is a prophetic indicator of the magnitude of the reward. You see, I do not allow great weight unless I'm preparing a platform that will carry great glory. What you bore in the hidden place, I am about to honor in the open. Not for vanity, but for validation. Not for the praise of people, but for the evidence of my hand on your life. There are seasons where I train in the shadows, but I reward in the light. And this is one of them. You endure what others couldn't see, and now they will witness what only I could give. You didn't choose this path because it looked appealing. You were called to it, pulled into the furnace of refinement where your name wasn't known, but your obedience was marked. And because you remained under that weight, even when it made no sense, I am now lifting the curtain. The reward is not being hidden. I am making it visible, undeniable. What I do next will not be quiet. It will be seen. It will be heard. It will provoke questions in the minds of those who assume your time had passed. But I want you to walk into it without hesitation. Do not feel ashamed of what I'm about to give you. Do not shrink back when the spotlight comes. It's not man's spotlight. It's my light, shining on a story that was forged in suffering, sealed in surrender, and birthed through persistence. You didn't manipulate your way here. You didn't chase recognition. That's why I'm placing you in positions that will command attention, because I can trust you to deflect the glory back to me. What I give you publicly will be the reflection of what we build privately. The people who saw your posture under pressure will now see your elevation with power. The blessing I'm about to release will not be subtle. I want it to be seen. I want them to ask how it happened. I want your life to be a living answer that says, "Only God." Because this is not just a gift, it's a divine announcement. I'm announcing that I have seen your struggle, that I have honored your perseverance, that I am not unjust to forget the labor you have done in my name. What's coming is layered restoration, elevation, multiplication. You've wept in silence, and now you will celebrate in the open. You've waited with patience, and now you'll walk in power. The wait was evidence that I was preparing you to carry more than blessing. I was preparing you to carry influence. You don't just have a testimony, you have an anointing shaped by pressure. And I'm using that anointing to touch people far beyond what you can imagine. So don't apologize when the doors open. Don't second guess when the invitations come. Don't hold your breath waiting for it to fall apart again. This is not a temporary breakthrough. This is sustained favor, because it's built on the foundation of faithfulness. The same weight that threatened to collapse you has now become the reason I can elevate you without fear. You are ready. You are approved. And the reward is no longer being delayed. It is on full display, and the world will know that I have been with you all along. There is a finality in my voice that no argument can reverse. There is a line I draw that no enemy can cross. And today, I declare this over your life with absolute authority: that chapter is closed. Not paused, not postponed, not hanging in limbo. Closed, sealed by my decision, signed by my sovereignty, and protected by my promise. What once haunted your mind, replayed through your thoughts, and revisited your heart when you least expected it, it no longer has permission to remain. I've closed it completely. This is urgent. Stop reopening what I've already buried. Stop rereading the pages that I've turned. You keep returning in your thoughts to moments you regret, to seasons that broke you, to relationships that left you empty, but I am not there. I've moved on, and I'm asking you to come with me. The delay is over because the page has turned. The heaviness is lifting because I've declared it finished. You may feel the memory trying to claw its way back into your present, but you must stand in the truth. I've closed the chapter, and no one, not even you, can reopen it. Not your guilt, not your questions, not your fears. I don't operate in half-closures. When I shut something, I shut it completely. You've asked me for clarity, but what you really needed was closure, and I've given it. You don't owe explanations to those who were part of your old season. You don't need to defend the decision to walk away from what was already destroying you. I was the one pulling you out. I was the one whispering, "That's enough." I was the one creating space for new beginnings by sealing off what no longer served your purpose. What you thought was rejection was my redirection. What felt like abandonment was actually deliverance. And now that the page has turned, I won't let you stay stuck in a chapter I've already ended. The lesson has been learned. The pruning has been completed. The oil has been pressed. And the old you, the version shaped by fear, controlled by the past, tied to unhealthy cycles, is no longer welcome in this next place. You've been trying to bring old mentalities into new moments, and it's felt heavy because they don't belong here. The weight of your past cannot fit in the doors I'm opening. This is a new level. This is a different rhythm, and it requires your full release. Let go of what happened. Let go of what didn't work. Let go of what you thought would last but didn't. Not because it didn't matter, but because I've already used it for what it was meant to accomplish. It served its purpose, and I'll let it go. When I close a chapter, it's not to erase your memory, it's to protect your momentum. You don't need to carry the grief of that season into your future. I'm replacing sorrow with strategy. I'm giving you clarity where confusion lived. I'm bringing peace where pain used to linger. This is not denial. This is deliverance. You will not look back with longing. You will look ahead with power. The people who were part of your past may not understand, but that's not your burden. What's ahead of you is too weighty to be slowed by what's behind. So walk forward with this confidence. It's over, not because you said so, but because I did. And when I declare something finished, it stays finished. No voice, no attack, no feeling, no memory, no lie has the authority to overturn what I have settled. This chapter is closed. And what's coming next is not a continuation. It's a completely new beginning, written by my hand, directed by my spirit, and designed for your restoration. Everything you endured in this last stretch wasn't random. It wasn't just another storm. It wasn't just another battle to add to your testimony. This was the final trial, the one I allowed to test what had taken root in you after everything else had been stripped away. It was never about punishment. It was about preparation. And though it pushed you to your limit, it did exactly what it was intended to do. Prove that your trust in me could not be shaken, even in the dark. This is important, because favor without endurance leads to collapse. But you, my child, didn't just survive the fire. You came through it with your faith intact, your heart surrendered, and your posture bowed before me. That's why I can release what's been reserved. You've been asking me when things will shift. You've wondered why it felt like breakthrough was so close, yet always out of reach. It was never out of reach. It was waiting for the final layer of surrender. And now that it's complete, the gates are open. This trial was not meant to take you out. It was meant to show heaven and hell like that you would not turn away. That you didn't follow me for blessings, but out of love. That even when you were reduced to tears, confusion, and silence, you didn't run, you remained. That kind of faith carries power in the courts of heaven. And now that it hath been fully demonstrated, I am releasing what had to be held back until this moment. This favor you are about to experience is not random overflow. It is targeted release. It has been assigned to the version of you that only emerged because of this final test. What you're walking into now would not have been safe for who you were before this trial. But I watched the pride break. I watched the need for control dissolve. I saw the surrender deepen, not with words but with your decisions. You chose to trust me in a place where nothing made sense. You gave me your plans, your timeline, your right to understand. And that, beloved, is why I can trust you with what's next. The favor I'm releasing isn't shallow. It's not the kind that just makes life easier. It's the kind that changes lives through your story. It's the kind that opens doors no man can shut, not just for your sake, but for those I'm calling you to reach. You passed this final test not by doing everything perfectly, but by not letting go when you could have. You didn't sell out for comfort. You didn't run when it got hard. And because you stayed, because you stood, because you believed when belief felt like a burden, I'm now giving you access to what was once withheld. The waiting season is over, not because the delay ended, but because the preparation is complete. I was shaping something in you that would make room for this new level of anointing, authority, and advancement. And now, I'm doing exactly what I said I would do. You didn't miss it. You didn't fall short. You arrived right on time, purified, humbled, and ready. So don't downplay what's about to be placed in your hands. You're not lucky. You're not just favored. You're qualified, because this final trial was your proving ground. And now that it's passed, the favor that was sealed for this moment is being poured out. Not drop by drop, but in waves. You'll see it in places you never expected. You'll feel it in areas that once felt barren. And every time you do, remember this: it didn't come easy, but it came right. And it's yours, because you stayed through the final fire, and now, the floodgates are open. There is a moment when pain loses its voice, when the tears that once fell without warning are dried by something greater than comfort, by closure. And I speak this over your life now with the full authority of heaven. You will not weep over that again. The grief that used to revisit you in silence, the ache that wrapped around your heart without invitation, the pattern that repeated itself like a wound that wouldn't heal, it ends here. This is not a pause in the struggle. This is a divine interruption. I have stepped in, and the cycle that tormented your peace has been shattered. What kept circling back to drain your energy, cloud your thoughts, and steal your rest has been broken. This isn't a temporary relief. This is permanent deliverance. What haunted your nights will no longer enter your mornings. What held your emotions captive will no longer dictate how you walk through the day. You are not just walking away from the pain. You are walking out of the pattern. And I'm telling you this urgently. Don't go back mentally to what I've freed you from spiritually. Don't rehearse the loss. Don't reopen the memories. Don't revisit what I've already healed. You don't owe your trauma a second look. You don't owe the past another explanation. I'm doing a new thing in you, and it begins with the final closure of what once had permission to torment you. You see, there were roots behind those tears, invisible roots, connected to fear, guilt, and shame. And over time, they tried to convince you that those emotions were your identity. But they were not. They were symptoms of the cycle, not reflections of your worth. And now, I've cut those roots off. You won't be pulled back into that same place again. You won't find yourself repeating what you cried to be free from. I didn't bring you this far just to circle back to sorrow. I am the God who ends what you thought you'd have to manage forever. I am the God who speaks one word and breaks generational patterns. And I have spoken over you. Enough. Enough of the repeated heartbreak. Enough of the emotional roller coasters. Enough of the silent battles no one else saw. The power of that cycle is nullified by the blood I've applied over your life. From this moment forward, what used to trigger your tears will lose its grip. The sound of their voice, the memory of that place, the fear of returning to that state, it will no longer control you. The stronghold has been broken. The atmosphere around you is shifting. I am giving you peace where pain once lived. I am planting joy in soil that once only bore sorrow. You will breathe differently now. Your soul will stop bracing for disappointment. You will walk forward without waiting for something to go wrong. That's what cycles do. They train you to expect collapse. But I've broken that training. I've interrupted that rhythm. And now, I'm replacing it with stability, consistency, and healing that lasts. You will cry over that again, not because you've hardened, but because you've healed. And your healing will carry fruit. You'll speak from wholeness, not hurt. You'll pour from overflow, not wounds. And when others come to you still trapped in the same cycle you once endured, your life will be living proof that freedom is possible. Not just survival. Not just coping. Freedom. Full, final, undeniable. So release the fear of it returning. It's over. It's done. And you will not weep over what I've conquered. What once broke you will now become the evidence that I was with you all along. And now, you are whole. There were days when no one applauded your obedience. When your surrender echoed in rooms that remained empty. When you whispered prayers that seemed to bounce off the ceiling. You served, waited, worshipped, and trusted, all while silence wrapped around you like a fog. No confirmation. No visible change. No reassurance. Just stillness. And yet you stayed. You didn't walk away. You didn't withdraw your devotion. You didn't use the silence as an excuse to compromise. And I want you to know this now, urgently and clearly. Every act of faith you offered in that silence was recorded in heaven. Not one moment went unnoticed. Not one sigh was ignored. Not one tear was unseen. The world may not have known the cost of your surrender, but the kingdom did. The angels were present when you lifted your hands with trembling faith. The courts of heaven heard your midnight intercession. I myself leaned close when you whispered yes while your heart was breaking. Child, I was there the entire time, not absent, but observing, documenting, weighing the weight of your worship under pressure. And because you chose faithfulness when silence made it feel pointless, I am now preparing to answer you in a way that will shake the very atmosphere around you. This is not a small reward. This is not a delayed response. This is divine recognition for what you did when no one else was watching. You honored me when you had every reason to doubt. You gave when you were empty. You trusted me without proof. That is the kind of faith I build legacies on. That is the kind of heart I entrust with impact. You didn't give me performance. You gave me consistency. And that matters more than you know. The records of heaven are not filled with noise. They are filled with obedience. And yours has echoed louder than many realize. The silence you thought meant abandonment was actually sacred space, space where I was carefully building your future on the foundation of your private trust. You weren't being ignored. You were being weighed. And your faithfulness has tipped the scales. You've cried for release. But I was waiting until the weight of your records surpassed the weight of the request. And now, it has. You've reached the fullness of time, and everything that was noted in secret is now working together for open manifestation. You're about to receive not because you shouted the loudest, but because you stood the longest. Not because you knew what was next, but because you trusted me when nothing made sense. So don't be surprised when things start aligning suddenly. Don't question it when doors open without warning. Don't second-guess the favor that begins to surround you. It's not random. It's not premature. It's fulfillment. Fulfillment of promises I made while you were on your knees. Fulfillment of prayers you almost forgot you prayed. Fulfillment of obedience that seemed like it was never going to matter. I never forget faithfulness. I never ignore surrender. And now, I'm rewarding it. You may not have the platform others had, but you have the purity I can trust. You may not have the visibility others chased, but you carry the oil that only pressure can release. And because of that, what's coming won't just bless you, it will change those around you. Your story will carry the weight of my presence. Your words will release peace into broken places. Your very existence will testify of what I do with those who stay loyal when the lights go out. So lift your head. This silence has been recorded in full. And heaven is about to respond with a sound that makes it all worth it. What settled over you like a cloud, what lingered longer than you expected, what followed you into moments that were supposed to be joyful, that darkness is lifting now. It will not suffocate you anymore. The heaviness that clung to your soul like a second skin, the pressure that made even simple things feel overwhelming, the emotional fog that blurred your vision and confused your steps, I am removing it. Not gradually, not eventually. Out. I am turning the page. And with that divine turn, the atmosphere surrounding your life is being reset. The weight of yesterday is being left behind because I am writing something new that doesn't include that sorrow. I want you to hear this with urgency. You are not being dragged into another cycle. You are being ushered into a shift. The chapter you've been stuck in, the one marked by uncertainty, disappointment, fatigue, and delay, has come to its final word. I've read every sentence. I've sat with you in every paragraph. But now, I'm the one reaching forward, taking the page in my hand, and declaring it complete. You don't have to explain it. You don't need to defend why you're ready. I'm the author, and I say it's time. There's been enough lingering, enough wondering, enough wrestling with questions that have no answer. I'm not just removing the darkness, I'm replacing it with clarity. The kind that silences confusion and brings a deep knowing into your spirit that says, something has shifted. And it has. This moment is not emotional. It's spiritual. And you will feel it. You'll wake up lighter. You'll walk steadier. You'll hear me more clearly. Because I'm removing the veil that made everything feel heavy and hidden. I'm releasing light where sorrow once sat. I'm giving new vision. Not recycled hope, but fresh expectation. You don't have to brace for more pain. You don't have to live guarded, always waiting for something to go wrong. I'm not like the past that disappointed you. I'm not like the seasons that broke you down. I'm faithful. And when I say the page has turned, I mean it. The ending has already been written, and it's good. The pain you've known will not be the blueprint for your future. I'm not using sadness to build your tomorrow. I'm using healing, restoration, and new beginnings. This page, the one I'm opening now, is filled with joy you haven't experienced yet. Peace that isn't borrowed, it's yours. Encounters with me that restore the wonder you thought you lost. You won't have to force this shift. Just follow me. Trust what you feel stirring inside, even if it doesn't yet make sense on the outside. That's the first sign the darkness is lifting. You start feeling hope before the evidence shows up. That's me. That's my spirit moving before manifestation. And it's happening now. What once felt like an endless winter is giving way to spring. What once closed you off is now opening wide. This is not a return to what was. This is a step into what has never been. The shadows are receding. The atmosphere is changing. And you will not carry yesterday's weight into this new chapter. I'm turning the page, and you don't have to look back. Let the old season rest. Let it be what it was, necessary for growth, but no longer needed for direction. I'm doing a new thing now. And you're not just watching it, you're stepping into it. So breathe deep. Lift your eyes. The light is here, and it's only going to grow brighter. Because when I turn the page, the whole story changes, and it begins today. They overlooked you. They questioned your worth. They measured your potential through their own limitations and decided you didn't qualify. They saw only fragments, and even those they misunderstood. But I saw the whole. I saw what you carried before you knew you were carrying it. I saw the depth, the strength, the purity, the fight, the flame. All of it, hidden behind the silence, behind the trials, behind the disappointments. And I want you to hear this now with urgency. They will see what I saw all along. Not because you need their recognition, but because I am revealing what I deposited in you from the beginning. I kept you hidden not because you were unworthy, but because I was protecting something sacred. Some people were never meant to see your process, only your emergence. I sheltered you, not to withhold opportunity, but to guard the oil that was forming through pressure. And now, the time of concealment has come to an end. The same ones who dismiss your presence will soon witness your purpose in motion. But don't look for revenge. Don't seek validation. Don't live to prove a point. This unveiling is not about vindication. It's about revelation. I am revealing the you I've always known, the one shaped in the fire, refined in the secret place, and strengthened through surrender. The version of you that didn't quit when no one was clapping. The version of you that stayed pure when it would have been easier to retaliate. That's who I'm revealing. And it will be undeniable. They won't be able to ignore the wisdom in your words, the peace in your posture, the authority in your presence. They'll look and wonder, when did this happen? And the truth is, it was happening the entire time. While they were sleeping on you, I was shaping you. While they were mocking your stillness, I was molding your strength. They didn't see you because they weren't supposed to. But now they will. Not because you've changed for them, but because I'm lifting the veil. I'm not just giving you visibility. I'm revealing the value that's always been there. You were never empty. You were never weak. You were never forgotten. You were being formed. And what I form, I finish. What I reveal, I protect. So don't let the attention shift your heart. Stay grounded in the secret place. Stay low, even when they lift your name high. The power I'm placing on your life isn't for display, it's for impact. What they'll see in you is not just the fruit of your labor, it's the fragrance of your surrender. The evidence that someone walked through fire and came out glowing, not bitter, not broken, but whole. Your story will carry weight because it carries me. And when they ask you how it happened, don't point to your skill or your strength. Point to the moments no one saw. The nights you wept and still worshipped. The mornings you woke up empty but still obeyed. That's what I saw. That's what I'm honoring. And now, I'm letting it be seen. You won't have to speak loudly. Your life will echo louder than any words. The light I've placed on you will shine through your actions, your posture, your presence. They'll see it. And more than that, they'll feel it. They'll encounter me through you. Because that's the reason I waited to reveal you. I wasn't just showcasing you. I'm showcasing my glory in you. And that cannot be rushed. But now, the wait is over. The season of being misunderstood, underestimated, and unseen is closing. The one I've always known is stepping forward. And the world will finally witness what only heaven has applauded until now. They judged you from the outside. They demanded explanations. They made you feel as if your value depended on your ability to meet their expectations. You've carried that weight longer than you realized, trying to show you were enough, trying to justify your calling, trying to prove your heart. But I want to free you right now with this truth. You never had to prove yourself to them. Because you were never taking their test. You were taking mine. I was your examiner. I was the one who watched when no one else cared. I was the one measuring your motives, not your image. While they demanded performance, I was looking at persistence. While they sought perfection, I honored purity. While they critiqued what they could see, I examined what only I could know. And I need you to hear this with urgency. Stop living like you owe everyone an answer. You don't. I was the one holding the pen. I was the one grading the unseen. I never asked you to impress the crowd. I asked you to stay true to the path. And you did. Even when the pressure was unbearable. Even when the silence made it feel like obedience was wasted. Even when those around you chose shortcuts and gained quick applause, you kept walking in the direction I whispered, not because it made sense, but because you trusted me. That is what I've honored. That is what qualified you for what's next. I wasn't testing your performance. I was testing your posture. Not whether you could make others believe in you, but whether you could remain faithful even when you felt forgotten. You passed because you stayed. You passed because you listened when you had every reason to tune me out. You passed because you didn't let public pressure silence your private convictions. Let that sink in. The test was never about their approval. Your applause was not your certificate. I'm the one who saw you serve when no one said thank you. I'm the one who saw you sacrifice when it cost you dearly. I'm the one who counted the tears you wiped away just so you could keep showing up. I never needed them to understand your value, and neither should you. That pressure to explain yourself, to defend your process, to validate your calling, I'm lifting it off you right now. I never asked you to do any of that. You've exhausted yourself trying to convince people who were never meant to carry the blueprint of your life. Stop handing the pen to those I never gave authority. Stop rewriting your story to make it more palatable to those who never saw your pain. I am your witness. I am your examiner. I am your judge, and my verdict is final. You passed the test that mattered. And now, I'm unlocking the doors they said you weren't ready for. I'm elevating you into the spaces they tried to block you from. I'm sending favor to chase you, not because you met man's criteria, but because you remained loyal to my process. You didn't have the loudest voice, but you had the most consistent obedience. And that's what matters in my kingdom. So now, walk freely. You no longer owe anyone your proof. I was there. I watched. I tested. I weighed. And I've already signed off on your next chapter. No one can override my signature. No one can revise what I've already approved. The examination is over. The results are in. And your faith has passed every trial with grace that only I could give. So step forward now, not trying to be seen, but knowing you were always known. Not fighting for a place, but realizing the place was always yours. because you never had to prove anything. I was watching the whole time. And I say, well done. You've been so hard on yourself. You've replayed what went wrong more times than you can count, wondering where you could have done things differently, where you missed the sign, where you fell short. But I want to speak directly to the storm inside your heart and silence it with truth. What you walked through was not failure. It was refinement. You weren't being disqualified. You were being developed. You weren't falling apart. You were being molded into something royalty ready. I never looked at your struggle and labeled you as lacking. I saw the pressure. I saw the confusion. I saw the frustration. But through it all, I saw what you couldn't. The crown being formed through every stretch of surrender. This wasn't punishment. It was preparation. You asked me to make you ready for more, and I answered, not by giving you everything at once, but by refining your character to carry what would have crushed you otherwise. And yes, that process was uncomfortable. It stripped you of pride. It exposed insecurities. It revealed hidden wounds you thought were already healed. But all of it had purpose. Every fire you passed through burned away what was not eternal. Every disappointment removed what could not go with you into this next place. The pressure you felt wasn't failure pressing in. It was glory pressing out. I was shaping you for a crown that could only rest on a head that had bowed low through the hardest seasons. This is urgent. Don't call failure what I call formation. You didn't go backwards. You went deeper. You didn't lose, you learned. You didn't collapse. You grew roots. And now, because of all that refinement, you are being elevated not just with favor, but with wisdom. Not just with opportunity, but with endurance. You'll carry influence, but it won't carry you, because you've been grounded in the fire. You'll walk with confidence, not arrogance, because humility was forged in the silence. What I'm placing on your life now is not light. It's weighty. It's royal. It's the result of long obedience in the same direction, even when the path was unclear and the pain was unrelenting. His crown isn't a trophy for perfection. It's the sign of authority given to those who stayed the course when no one was watching. And child, you stayed, even when you stumbled, even when you second-guessed, even when you cried more than you smiled. You stayed with me. And I never saw failure in that. I saw faith. Others may have judged the detours. They may have only seen the outward delays. But I was watching what was happening in the hidden place, and it was beautiful. The refining didn't make you weaker. It made you trustworthy. I don't place crowns on popularity. I place them on purity. I place them on those who have been tested in the fire and found faithful. That's you. So wear it now. Walk in it. Stop waiting for someone else to tell you you're ready. I've already said it. I've already approved it. The refining is complete, and the revealing has begun. You'll walk in rooms with grace that came from surviving seasons of grief. You'll speak words soaked in oil that was crushed out of you in your wilderness. And when people ask where your strength came from, you'll smile, not because you avoided the fire, but because you met me inside it. This wasn't failure. This was where you were crowned, not in front of people, but before my throne. And now, the crown is being seen. Step forward in who you truly are, refined, anointed, and chosen. You may not realize it yet, but every door that shut, every opportunity that vanished, every plan that unraveled in your hands, it was never rejection. It was redirection. And I need you to grasp this with all the urgency in your spirit. Every no you faced was a divine protection surrounding the yes I had reserved for this very moment. I never withheld what was good for you. I shielded you from what would have broken you before you were ready. The relationships that ended, the positions you didn't get, the timing that didn't align, all of it was my mercy moving on your behalf before you even knew you needed it. You prayed for breakthrough, and I answered by blocking what looked right but wasn't rooted in my will. You cried when they left, but I celebrated, not because I enjoy your pain, but because I knew who they really were when you couldn't see it. I knew the motives. I saw the weight they would add. I saw the wounds they would cause. So I said no. And you didn't understand. It felt like abandonment. It felt like delay. It felt like I wasn't listening. But I was. Intensely. I was working behind the curtain of your life with precision. I was aligning what you didn't even know you needed, setting aside the exact open door that would release the next level of purpose over your life. Today, I'm opening it. The yes is here. Not a recycled promise. Not a initial chance. A door carved by my own hand, designed for your feet, unlocked by your faithfulness, and timed perfectly by my authority. You had to walk through a season of shut doors so your heart would not be tied to auctions that looked safe but weren't sacred. You had to feel the tension of waiting so that when the release came, your discernment would be sharp and your obedience would be swift. And now, the time has come. The path you once tried to force is no longer needed. The desperation to be accepted is gone because I've made room for you without compromise. This yes will not ask you to shrink. It will not require you to perform. It will not manipulate your values. This yes is aligned with your identity, the version of you I've been shaping in silence. So I urge you, stop grieving the things I removed. Stop chasing what I rescued you from. Let go of the questions about why it didn't happen earlier. You were never behind. You were always being prepared. I know what punishment it was placement. I was placing you in a process that would purify your motives, strengthen your foundation, and refine your vision. And now, you will see why it had to be this way. This yes won't drain you. It will revive you. It won't confuse you. It will confirm you. It won't entangle you. It will free you. You're not walking into another cycle. You're stepping into completion. And I'm not just giving you access. I'm walking you through the door myself. You're not alone in this transition. I'm going before you, clearing the path, securing the promise, and surrounding you with grace. So don't hesitate. Don't look back with regret. Every no was holy. Every closed path was sacred. Every delay was loaded with deliverance. And now, the yes is here, weighty, undeniable, unstoppable. You didn't miss it. You didn't ruin it. You waited, and I've answered. Walk into it now. Walk boldly. Walk fully. The door is open, child, and it's yours. You've looked back and wondered what it was all for. The broken seasons, the long nights, the disappointments, the tears no one saw but me. You've questioned the purpose of pain that didn't seem to produce anything at the time. But I tell you with a voice full of clarity and urgency, nothing was wasted. Not even a moment. What felt like loss was not loss. What looked like delay was not delay. What seemed like failure was not failure. I was storing it all, every experience, every step, every sacrifice, for this exact moment. I didn't overlook one act of obedience. I didn't forget one decision to keep going when giving up seemed easier. I saw how you chose me again and again, even when it cost you deeply. I saw you worship through heartbreak, speak kindness through betrayal, believe even when your heart was tired. And I did not forget. I was gathering it all like precious treasure, storing it in the vaults of eternity, preserving it for the hour when it would be needed most. And now, that hour is here. The moment you thought would never come, it's arriving. Not as a coincidence, not by chance, but as the release of what's been accruing through every trial you survived and every prayer you whispered in the dark. I never overlook the cries of the faithful. I never disregard the labor of those who build when there's no applause. You sowed with tears, and now I'm bringing the harvest with joy. This moment is not just a blessing. It's an outpouring of everything that's been multiplying in silence. The crushing you endured was creating oil. The stretching you experienced was enlarging your capacity. And the waiting you walked through was anchoring you in ways that time alone could never accomplish. What others counted out, I counted up. What others dismissed as defeat, I marked as divine development. You thought you had missed something. But the truth is, I was collecting everything you thought was broken and preparing it to be used as part of your elevation. Even the things you tried to hide, I've redeemed. The pain that embarrassed you, I've purified it. The weakness that made you feel ashamed, I've turned it into strength. The stories you never wanted to share, I've turned them into healing rivers that will water dry souls. I don't waste anything surrendered to me. And child, you've surrendered more than you realize. You gave me your hopes, your failures, your expectations, your grief, and I gathered it all with love. And now, like a good father, I'm giving back what I stored, but multiplied, refined, and transformed. The experiences you tried to move past are about to become the exact tools I use to move you forward. The wisdom you didn't know you were gaining is now your weapon. The compassion you developed through your own pain is now your ministry. The strength you found while holding on is now your mantle. Don't downplay what you went through. Don't minimize the years of silence or the battles no one saw. I saw them. I sat with you in them. And I recorded every single moment. You didn't endure it in vain. You endured it unto purpose. And now, I'm releasing what was stored. Doors will open that were sealed before. Opportunities will come that you didn't even ask for. Connections will align not because you strived for them, but because I ordained them long ago, and the time of release has come. I'm not just restoring what you lost. I'm releasing what I've been holding for the appointed time. And this, my child, is that time. So lift your head. Breathe again. Open boldly. Nothing was wasted. It was all preparation for this. And what I'm about to do next will make every moment worth it. You kept walking, thinking you were barely holding on. You whispered prayers that felt too weak to matter. You wondered if I was even noticing the silent choices you made, the times you stayed quiet when you could have defended yourself, the nights you forgave instead of feeding the anger, the moments you gave when you felt empty. But I was watching, not from a distance, not with judgment, but with a heart full of compassion, recording every moment of your surrender. And here's what I need you to hear with urgency. You didn't fail. You passed every test, even when it didn't feel like it, even when there was no applause, even when you thought you broke down. You were actually being broken open for more light to pour into you. The test was never about proving your strength. It was about revealing your trust. And child, your trust endured. You trusted me in the quiet when no answers came. You trusted me when the waiting turned into wondering. You trusted me when others moved ahead and you stayed behind, not because you couldn't run, but because you refused to leave the path I set for you. And I counted that trust as triumph. You see, the tests I give aren't about performance. They're about purity. I wasn't checking if you could impress me with your efforts. I was looking for the posture of your heart when no one else could see. And what I saw was gold. Refined. Unshakable. Beautiful. You didn't have to shout your way through this. You didn't need to prove your worth. You simply stayed. And that was enough. That obedience when it hurt. That was the test. The patience when it seemed unfair. That was the test. The consistency when you had every reason to give up. That was the test. And you passed them, one after another, without realizing that heaven was standing in awe of your persistence. What others saw as stagnation was actually sacred stillness. You weren't stuck. You were being strengthened. You weren't falling behind. You were being fortified. And now, I want you to know something I've never stopped whispering over you, even in your most silent nights. I'm proud of you. Not because you got it all right. Not because you never wept or wrestled or wondered. But because you never left. You never abandoned your yes. You didn't understand it all, but you didn't walk away. You kept showing up, in prayer, in praise, in faith, even when it felt like you were speaking into the void. But I was there, catching every tear, weighing every act of obedience, preserving every small seed of faith you planted in the dry ground. And now, I declare over you, the test is over. The trial is complete. The season of examination has passed, and you are emerging not as a wounded wanderer, but as a trusted carrier of my presence. What you endured has shaped you, not shamed you. What you face has formed you, not finished you. You didn't even know you were passing, but your heart knew. Your spirit knew. And now your eyes will see what your faith hath been building all along. The results of your endurance are being released. The answers are being unveiled. The reward is being ushered in, not as a transaction, but as a fulfillment of what I promised. So stop second-guessing yourself. Stop apologizing for your process. The wilderness was not wasted. The silence was not meaningless. The tests were never designed to destroy you. They were building the version of you that is now ready to carry glory. You are no longer in the testing phase. You are in the receiving room. So receive, not with fear, but with boldness. You passed, child. And I, the one who tested you, now announce your promotion. You've carried more than most people know. You've walked through rooms full of people while feeling like no one truly saw you. You stood in the middle of storms, wondering if I had stepped away. You've cried into pillows, asking if your prayers were hitting the ceiling. But I need you to hear me with holy urgency. You were never alone. Not for a second. Not even when you felt invisible. I was closer than the air in your lungs. I was sitting beside you in the silence. I was surrounding you in the spaces where you felt most isolated. Even when your heart whispered, "I can't feel him," my presence wrapped around you like armor. You didn't see the angels I assigned to stand guard. You didn't hear the enemy's plans that I blocked before they even reached you. You didn't notice the miracles that looked like ordinary moments, but they were there, orchestrated by my hand to keep you covered while you wondered if you had been forgotten. And that's why today matters. Because I'm lifting the veil so you can see what's been true the whole time. Loneliness didn't mean abandonment. It was me pulling you into deeper intimacy. I allowed the quiet not to hurt you, but to heighten your hearing. I shielded you from certain voices so you would lean into mine. I didn't remove people just to create a void. I removed the distraction so you would recognize my voice in the center of stillness. You see, my love doesn't shout to compete with noise. It whispers, and that whisper can only be heard when everything else goes silent. I know you thought you were isolated, but you were actually being insulated from lies, from attachments, from everything that couldn't go with you into this next season. I couldn't let false support hold you up when I was teaching you to stand on me. I couldn't allow temporary affirmation to replace eternal connection. So I let it all fall away, not to punish you, but to prepare you for a depth of closeness that only grows in seasons of aloneness. But now, I need you to recognize what's always been true. I was there. In the doctor's office. In the courtroom. In the breakup. In the loss. In the questioning. I didn't flinch. I didn't leave. I didn't stop holding you, even when your faith was fragile. Even when you doubted me, I never doubted you. I stayed. I watched. I covered. And now, you're about to see with your eyes what your heart didn't yet understand. The room was never empty. The path was never unguarded. The burden was never carried alone. I was surrounding you with favor, with protection, with presence. There were things I did in secret that saved you from disaster. You didn't even know the danger I intercepted. You didn't even realize the trap that was set, because I destroyed it before you arrived. And every tear you cried alone, I caught it. Every word you whispered in pain, I wrote it down. Nothing was lost. Nothing went unheard. And now, I'm turning it all into testimony. The very place you thought would break you is the ground I've chosen to bless. The same place that felt empty is now being filled with glory. You are not forsaken. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are surrounded, now, then, and always. And everything that made you feel alone will now serve as evidence of how faithfully I walked beside you. Watch what I do next. It will silence every lie that told you I was gone. I know the waiting tested you. I saw how your hope trembled while the clock kept moving forward, with no sign of change. I watched as you tried to stay strong when the silence grew louder and time felt like your enemy. You wondered if I'd change my mind. You questioned if you heard me correctly. But hear me now, and take this in with urgency. The delay was never a cancellation. It was a shield. It was protection sent from heaven wrapped in silence. I wasn't withholding to tease you or torment you. I was guarding something far more sacred than your desires. I was guarding your destiny. Because if I had given you what you asked for when you asked for it, it would have overwhelmed you, not blessed you. You weren't wrong to hope, you were just early. The road you were asking for hadn't finished being paved. The people involved weren't ready. The timing wasn't aligned. And the deeper work in you was still unfolding. You see, I don't release premature blessings. I don't rush destiny. What I birth is holy, and it must come forth in the fullness of time. The delay was divine defense, not just for you, but for what you're meant to carry. I was building strength in you. I was setting a hedge around you. I was silencing threats you never even knew existed. What felt like a pause was actually preservation. While you were asking me when, I was whispering over you, soon, and stronger. You didn't see it, but I was moving things out of your path. Wrong relationships, misaligned connections, open doors that looked promising but were rooted in pride or manipulation. You would have walked into disaster thinking it was your destiny. So I stopped it. I let things fall apart so that what I truly authored could fall into place. I let the plans you made get interrupted because I had a better version already written. Child, you weren't being delayed. You were being developed. That version of you that is now wiser, braver, more grounded, that took time. And I love you too much to rush the process. Because this isn't just about getting to the promise, it's about staying in it. And I don't just prepare the promise for you, I prepare you for the promise. That's what the delay did. It humbled you. It shaped your discernment. It burned away the need for instant approval and replaced it with an anchored identity in me. And now you can handle what's coming. Now your heart is in the right posture. Now your vision is clear. The delay wasn't a detour. It was a destination in disguise. And now, the doors will begin to open, not in chaos, but in perfect peace. Not out of striving, but through surrender. You'll notice things fall into place without force. You'll meet people who were waiting for you as much as you were waiting for the opportunity. You will see how every minute that felt wasted is now working for you. And when it happens, you'll know. This was never a denial. It was always divine strategy. The things you thought were taken were simply being preserved until you were strong enough to steward them. The time you thought was lost was actually where I planted the wisdom you'll need for what comes next. You didn't miss it. You didn't mess it up. And it's not too late. I've been writing the details while you were learning to trust me with the unknown. And now, the release is beginning, right on time. No more fear of missing it. No more shame about how long it's taken. This delay was divine. And now, I'm ushering you into everything I held back until it was safe to bless you. It's not delayed anymore. It's being delivered, and it's protected by my hand. You looked at the calendar and felt the pressure of everything you thought should have happened by now. You've measured your journey against the pace of others and wondered if you were falling behind. The world around you moved faster, and you questioned whether the years you spent building in silence, healing in solitude, and growing without applause were wasted. But listen closely. This is urgent, and you must understand it with your whole heart. Time is not your enemy. I am the author of time, and I don't lose track of what I've written for you. The years you thought slipped through your fingers were not lost. They were being held in my hand. And while you thought the clock was ticking against you, I was doing what only I can do. I was multiplying time in ways that can't be measured by minutes or deadlines. The moments you spent obeying in the shadows, I've turned those into foundations that can't be shaken. The nights you wrestled in prayer instead of chasing shortcuts, I've used those as divine accelerators. The seasons where nothing seemed to move, I was advancing you in unseen realms. What looked like stillness on the outside was rapid transformation on the inside. And now, what took others a decade, I'll do for you in days. What seemed to be delayed for years, I'll make appear in moments. Because when I move, I don't catch you up, I lift you forward. You've been worried about lost chances, but I'm the God who restores the years. Not just the opportunity, the years. I restore time. I write outcomes. I redeem timelines. I resurrect what seemed too far gone. And I'm doing it right now. While the world expects you to explain how, I'll be showing them who. You won't need to defend your pace. The fruit will speak for itself. The favor will be undeniable. I am not bound by time, and because you belong to me, neither is your future. That window you thought had closed, I have the keys. That door you thought you missed, I built a better one. And that voice in your mind telling you it's too late, silence it with this truth. I am the God who makes all things new, including your timeline. You didn't miss out. You matured. You didn't fall behind. You were being fortified. You didn't stall. You were in a sacred cycle of preparation that had to finish before I unveiled the next chapter. And now, you'll move in power, not panic. You'll move with clarity, not comparison. You'll recognize that my timing wasn't punishment, it was precision. You weren't overlooked, you were preserved. You weren't slow, you were safe. And every tear that fell during the wait is now being exchanged for evidence. Evidence that I was working even when you couldn't see it. Evidence that I honored your endurance. Evidence that I'm still the God of suddenly, the God of acceleration, the God of completion. So lift your eyes, child. Stop regretting the time you think you lost. I was multiplying it in secret. I was adding layers to your legacy while you were being patient in the process. And what I'm about to do in your life will silence every fear that whispered too late. You're right on schedule, mine, not theirs. And my schedule is sovereign. Trust me, you won't wish you started sooner. You'll be grateful you trusted me deeper. Because what's coming now wasn't right, wasn't forced, and will be taken. It's yours, multiplied, matured, and ready. You mistook the silence for separation. You thought my stillness meant I had withdrawn, or worse, that you had failed me. But I need you to understand, urgently and deeply, that I never stopped working, not for a second. What felt like punishment with preparation under divine cover. What you labeled as delay was actually discipline wrapped in mercy. You weren't being pushed away, child. You were being pulled into a level of strength, clarity, and discernment that could only be formed when the noise quieted and the spotlight faded. The unseen places, the ones that no one applauds or understands, were my chosen training ground for you. Because what I'm building through you can't be sustained by surface-level faith or fleeting passion. It requires depth. And depth doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in the soil of surrender. That's why I kept you hidden. That's why it felt like nothing was moving. Because I wasn't rushing your fruit, I was fortifying your roots. You were being trained when no one was watching. Every prayer whispered in frustration, every praise lifted while your heart was breaking, every act of obedience that cost you relationships and rest. All of it was me refining you, not punishing you, preparing you. You didn't realize that while you were asking me for platforms, I was anchoring your heart in private. Because a platform without character collapses under pressure. And I love you too much to allow exposure before endurance is complete. I watched you battle loneliness, not realizing I was surrounding you with my presence. I saw your tears fall over dreams you thought were forgotten. But I hadn't forgotten. I was sharpening your vision to see what truly matters. I was stretching your faith so that when the time comes, You wouldn't be moved by noise or numbers, only by my voice. You were being trained in how to follow me when there's no crowd, no spotlight, no visible reward. Because if you can follow me in the hidden place, you'll remain faithful when the doors open and the visibility increases. I wasn't punishing your pace. I was perfecting your posture, the humility you carry now. It wasn't born in moments of success. It was formed in the fire of submission. That compassion you show others, it didn't appear overnight. It grew from your own pain, your own cries, your own lessons. I've used every trial, every setback, every closed door as part of the training. Because nothing is wasted in my hands, not your delays, not your questions, not even your heartbreak. I'm the God who makes warriors in the wilderness. I'm the one who molds leaders when they feel left behind. I turn valleys into classrooms and waiting rooms into launching pads. And now, you're standing on the edge of release, not because you forced it, but because you let me finish what I started. You didn't rush the process. You didn't shortcut the journey. You stayed when others walked away. You learned to hear me when no one else was speaking truth into you. And now, you're not the same. You're stronger, but not in the way the world defines strength. You're anchored. You're alert. You're aware of who you are and who I am in you. And that awareness is your armor. So let go of the shame that tried to convince you the waiting was punishment. Let go of the regret that whispered you were being overlooked. I didn't forget you. I was focused on you. I wasn't disciplining you in anger. I was shaping you in love. And what I've built in you during the unseen moments will carry you when the visible moments come. Don't rush to be seen. You've already been noticed by me. And I don't waste what I notice. The season that felt still was your sanctification. The pause was my plan. The hiding was holy. And now, the unveiling is near, not because you demanded it, but because you're ready to carry what you've been trained to steward. Every step you took, even when your legs were shaking, I saw it. Each time you chose obedience over comfort, I recorded it. You didn't realize the weight your faith was carrying, but I did. And now, what was once invisible is about to become undeniable. This is not a metaphor. This is not a future hope. This is a present move. What you did in the dark, what you held onto when everything told you to let go, I'm bringing it into the light, not just for your encouragement, but as undeniable evidence of my presence, my promise, and my power working in your life. You thought your quiet yes was just between you and me, but I'm turning that yes into public testimony. You thought no one saw the sacrifices, the midnight intercessions, the silent endurance. But I was counting everyone. And I don't let what is given in faith go unanswered. I honor it. I amplify it. I transform it into markers that not only guide your path, but speak to those around you. It's urgent that you understand this. Your faith has never been wasted. Even when it felt like you had nothing to show for it, heaven was shifting because of it. I was using every small act of belief to push back darkness, to unlock provision, to break generational cycles you didn't even know you were standing against. And now, the results will begin to manifest, not to validate you in man's eyes, but to confirm to you what I've been saying all along. You are not unseen, and your faith has power. Doors are about to open not because you networked or strategized, but because you believe. Provision will appear, not because you earned it, but because you trusted me when nothing made sense. I'm turning your prayers into results, your sowing into harvest, your worship into breakthrough. Watch closely. The same places where you were mocked for your faith will become stages for my glory. The same relationships that question your convictions will witness miracles birthed from your consistency. And it won't be subtle. I'm making it loud. I'm making it obvious. Because your testimony isn't just for you. It's a signpost for others who need to know that faith still works. Your story will speak even when you don't have to. Your life will become a declaration of what happens when someone refuses to give up, even in the drought. The evidence I'm releasing will silence every accusation, heal every disappointment, and anchor you in a deeper confidence. not in yourself, but in me. Because what's coming next can't be explained by effort, only by encounter. The miracles will be too tailored, too precise, too timely to be dismissed as coincidence. They will trace back to your decision to keep trusting me when logic told you to quit. This is why the wait had to be long, so that the glory would be undeniable. This is why I let certain things fall apart, so that what rises now won't be touched by human hands. It's me. All of it. I'm writing your legacy in the ink of your obedience. And now, that ink becomes visible. Every word you stood on, every promise you clung to, they are about to show themselves not as fading hope, but as fulfilled declarations. So stop questioning if it was worth it. Stop wondering if your faith made a difference. I am the God who watches over His word to perform it, and I have not forgotten a single thing you believed me for. The harvest is coming, not in fragments but in fullness. And when it arrives, you'll know, this isn't random. This is what faith produces in the hands of a faithful God. It ready to live in the evidence of what you once only prayed for. Amen.